and I knock down all of your mobile.
A lot of the school kids are wondering, because there's no youth rugby weeks, there's been no Easter rugby festivals, there hasn't been anything like that. A lot of people are actually worried about, or kids are worried about, what's going to happen to their rugby career. Have they missed out? Do they need to, you know, have they missed out on the opportunities? Have they missed out on the chances to actually play in a professional rugby league or a professional rugby team, or even go to university? Richard Bands, who, as you all know, is a Springbok Rugby player. And he also had a professional career, but he didn't start off in one of the big schools. He didn't play in any of these youth weeks. He didn't play in an Easter Rugby Festival. He didn't play in the Bonderdag or one of those tournaments. And he still managed to continue his life as a professional rugby player and play for the Springboks and play in the World Cup. So there is a possibility for kids who haven't had the opportunities to play this year. So welcome, Richard. Welcome today.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Can you please just talk us through how you got involved in rugby, how, you know, your schooling structures, what you did throughout school, and then eventually how you just decided that you were going to become a Springbok one day, and what was your progress and how did you actually do that?
Yeah, look, man, thanks for the opportunity, Sean. It's awesome to speak to the guys and give them maybe a glimmer of hope in these difficult times. You know, I grew up in a small little farming community on a small little place called Maretsani, which is just close to the Botswana border. 50 kids in the school. So I started grade 1 playing rugby, and at that stage my two props, I started out on hooker. My two props were standard 5, you know, so we only had 15 guys in the school playing rugby from grade 1 to grade 7 or standard 5. So, you know, we grew up playing rugby. There's a joke in the family, you know, when I played my first game and my dad asked me, so who are we playing against? I said, I'm not sure. I think it's Western Province, you know. So we grew up in a rugby culture, and you know, standard 5. I played Craven Week for Stellaland, or grade 7. And then I moved to Hoërskool Lichtenburg, under 15. We played in the Beeld Trofee, the old Directeurs Trofee final, and a few years later in Matric we played also again in the final of the Beeld Trofee. And after that I went to the army, which we had to do. There I played SA Forces, and then you know, from the farm to the closest rugby field, which was Mafeking, you know, was a 60 or a 70 kilometers drive, you know. So every night after finishing on the farm, you know, you have to drive to Mafeking, play rugby there. But at that stage, you know, we had some droughts on the farm. It was difficult to get to the practices, and there was a rule: if you don't attend practices, you play in the second team. So at the age of 26, I thought, you know, I must give this a bash because time is not really on my side. Everybody said, you know, you need to go play rugby, you need to play rugby. But coming from a community which is pretty much out there, it's not really destined for you to become a Springbok. I mean, everybody wants to be a Springbok, but reality is it's difficult time. So in '98, I said to my dad, you know, I'm gonna stop farming. I must give this a go. You know, age is not on my side, and I have to give it a go. I think one of the regrets that you have in life is saying that you didn't give it a go. You know, so I went to the Free State in '98. I played a few games there for the B side, and at the end of the year, they didn't want to give me a contract. They said I'm a substandard club player. So in '99, I moved to Pretoria. I started there playing at the Harlequins, and then Henny Creel spotted me, and at that stage, Heineke was just coming into the Bulls. So in the end of 2000, I signed a contract with the Bulls, and yeah, the rest is history. Played over 100 games for the Bulls, a few tests. Played for the World 15, the Barbarians. So moral of the story is, nobody can tell you what you can't and can do. If you believe in hard work, really hard work, you know, coming from a small community, we always say you get the high road and the low road. So the guys in the city, you know, they're privileged because, you know, they play on the stadiums. So the exposure for them is good. Where I used to call us grunts, you know. So our grunts that needs to work hard, you know. It's a tough road, but hard work always beats talent, except when talent works hard, is the saying. So yeah, in short, that's my little a little bit of my history.
Now, I mean, throughout that, what you've just told us now, there were so many points where you could have just turned around and said, okay, well, let's just give up on rugby and just go back and farm. What made you carry on? What made you carry on trying to play rugby and have a career in rugby?
Look, I think if you grow old one day, you must live life to the fullest, and you shouldn't have any regrets. So I had, well, I had good talent, and I was prepared to work hard. And I think one of the things that will haunt me when I'm old is what could have been, you know. And I think that was my big motivation, you know, to give it a go. And you know, I was in the Free State, and I set my mind to it. You know, I had to make this a success, and I had the opportunity. You know, I wasn't fortunate. You know, I was born when my dad was 50, so he's a stud bull. You know, I haven't had the opportunity after school, although I had I could have gone to Pretoria. I had to go back to the farm and farm, you know, so because it was old. So but I had to make it work in order to save the farm from a drought as well. So I had to play the farm out of into a cash flow. So I was a little bit with my back against the wall. I had to make it work, and I knew that. And yes, it was tough and it was hard, but that was what it should have been, and I've been very fortunate the way it turned out.
I mean, going through a drought and battling in the farm, it must have been quite difficult to approach your dad and say, listen, I'm going to try this rugby thing out. Yeah.
Look, there was a lot of tears. I'm the only son in the family. I had 4 sisters. Oh, well, I still have 4 sisters. so and the farm was, you know, it's been in the family for quite a while. So, you know, it's a tradition. You know, the son gets the farm, and tradition must go on. So the fact of the matter is, there was drought. I had actually 3 droughts on the farm, and on the 4th one, I just said, you know, this is it. I can't take it anymore. And the bank didn't want to give me a production loan anymore to plow and plant. So I really didn't have a choice. I had to go, and I had to play myself out of the. I almost swore now, but out of trouble.
Especially now during lockdown and coronavirus, there's a lot of talk about pre-season. But as a farmer, you get a totally different pre-season. What was your pre-season as a farmer?
Look, it's funny. It doesn't help you. Well, you work hard, but if it doesn't rain, it doesn't rain. So, you know, you've got sweat, tears, and you start 4 o'clock in the morning and plowing, and tonight at 10 o'clock, you get a little bit of a nap, and so that's pre-season. But if it doesn't rain, there's nothing you can do about it. So you know, you pray for rain, but if it doesn't work, if it doesn't rain, it doesn't help how hard you work, and there's nothing you can do about it. So the fact of the matter is, you know, you need to stay humble, and work for the talent that the Lord gave you, and to buck down on, like I said, hard work always beats talent, you know. So back against the wall, you know. So hard work is always part of my DNA. And you know, a few years later, you know, at one stage you're angry. Why couldn't you farm, and why couldn't you farm? And a few years later, you know, the decision wasn't with you to make whether it rains or not. And then, you know, there was a better path. And at the end of the day, making a huge difference in people's lives. You know, where there's kids, and I always go to clinics and mana onda, and I speak to the guys, you know, small little towns, and I said, Jim, you know what? Doesn't matter what. There's always opportunity, but you must be prepared. You must be prepared to work hard. And I'm an example of that. You know, you have to work hard, and you need to believe. And that's always my message to the kids in the platteland. You know, just graft down and work hard. Somewhere someone will see you, and you've got one bite at the cherry, and you need to be prepared for the opportunity when it comes your way.
Theo, Garen and I sat down and had a chat to Kobus Visa's mother, but young Kobus Visa from country districts. And, you know, we had seen him, we had seen Jasper. I hadn't seen his older brother go through, but we were sitting there at the 1 year at Craven Week chatting to her, and she was telling us about his preseason. She said that when the school term finished, he got this piece of paper with all the gym routine he's meant to be doing, and she stuck it up on the fridge so he can, you know, the whole family knows what he's meant to be doing. And a week before Craven Week, she went to him and said, well, I haven't seen you doing anything. And he said, well, we had lucerne harvest at the beginning of Craven Week, so he's busy throwing big bales of lucerne off the back of a truck. Then they did game capturing. Then they did, I can't remember what else he was doing, all farming kind of things. And he said, well, there's no better preseason than doing stuff like that. You can't get more prepared than doing that. It's a different kind of muscle also to your just going to gym and pumping iron. So I mean, what benefits do you think? Do you think you had a bit of an advantage being coming from a farm like he did?
No, look, it's hard work. I always said, you know, you can bring the gym bunnies out to the farm. You know, 10 minutes they'll be done and dusted. You know, so I had a auction earlier this week with the Simantalers Genootskap, and I said to the guys, you know, when I was younger, we had to catch the calves and grab them around the neck and tackle them so we can burn their horns. So, it's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but it is. If you come to my house, you'll see all the Hitman trophies, which means it's the biggest tackle in the game. And I think there's about 40 of them, just from 100 games. So, and the guy said, you know, where did you learn to tackle? I said, well, have you tackled a calf before in your life? You know, with the angry mother at the back, you know. So yeah, no, it does have its benefits. If you think years ago, Tommy Loacher and all those boys, you know, coming from the farm, they're natural big boys, you know, and strong. And Doc Craven always used to say, you know, if you want the big burly forwards, strong boys, you go look for them on the farms, you know. And I think not a lot has changed since then. I've got a few guys, Gerard Steenekamp. I used to train him a little bit in the pre-season to make his knee a little bit better and stronger. And if you look, he's a farm boy from Potchefstroom as well. You know, he's a tough bugger, and he's got a brilliant attitude. And I think he was in the squad as well, although he popped a little bit of a rib, but he's sorted out now. So the boys in the platteland, you know, the farm lads, they're big and strong. I think the only challenge with them is their diet. You know, they're still used to meat and potatoes and rice and so on and so forth, and millipop, you know. So I think that's the only challenge that we have with the farm lads.
Our lunches at Craven Week in Bloemfontein were with steak, boerewors, a piece of chicken as the vegetable, and some potato salad and potato bake.
Yeah. Look, we have a saying on the farm: if you want some vegetables, you slaughter a pig, you know.
So now you're still very much involved in rugby. I mean, you've got your own business that you're running. You've got a lot in your hands at the moment. But how are you involved in rugby now?
Well, at this stage, I'm it's there's two tales to the story. So I'm involved with a company called DigiTV, where we live stream, I think about 57 of the top schools. You spoke about Boys High and so forth, and Grey College. So where we live stream all their sports and their rugby games. So just before lockdown, I did a little bit visits to all the schools, and then lockdown came. So everything was a little bit on a halt. I had some meetings with Richard Visagie, which is a scrum guru down there in Boys High, and exchanging ideas. But I think being involved with DGTV is having access to the guys playing at school level, so you can chat with them to see their technique, and to have an idea what is coming through the system, and how on par the coaches are regarding scrums and scrum techniques and so on and so forth. So and of course it's a nice PR, and we do a little bit of mana aunt with the fundraising and so on. So I have pretty much the best of both worlds regarding business and the kids, able to work with them and the coaches. And then I'm involved with Tuks, with the Varsity Cup as well. I'm the scrum coach there. And I must admit, it's sometimes a little bit scary if you look, guys coming through the system, and you look at their technique, and you see, what they've been coached. And I must admit, the guys are playing with props lives, in the sense that, if the technique is not right, he could be in a wheelchair. So I always used to say, how do they pick the prop at school? So they pick them according to the weight. So they say, you're a fatty, you're a prop. But nobody teaches them, technique, straight back, feet, and momentum, and quick feet. So there's a little bit of a concern regarding scrum coaches on certain levels, primary school and high school. I don't think we're 100% there. I think we need to put some effort into it, and that's where DigiTV comes in, and that's where I'm involved. And going out, not trying to be a threat to the coach, not at all, but to add value to the kid. And my main concern is most of the coaches, we want to add value, they see you as a threat, and that's a sad part about the schools. Heineke Meyer always used to say, if you don't know how to do something, get somebody that can do it. So a lot of coaches see me as a threat going to the schools, like I said. But guys, it's about adding value and creating opportunity for the guy, and getting it right at high school level makes life a lot easier for him to come through the system to a Tuks or a Marties or whatever the case might be. And that's where I see my job, and adding value to the community, or to the rugby community. And that's really where I want to make a difference.
Yeah, you've just opened up 1,000 questions from me. And it's hitting. I used to be quite involved in Super Rugby, and the Crusaders, when they came over, always used to invite me over for like lunch or an afternoon tea. And the one day I was sitting with Angus Gardner from the Crusaders and Todd Blackadder. It was his last season as Crusaders coach, and they were asking me all about Craven Week, because they're fascinated about Craven Week. And we started talking about what you were talking about now, about the size of people. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was when Os was the Springbok prop, you had Keith Muse, I think was his opposite number. And he was about what's 2/3 of the size of Os, but he held his own against him, and it was all due to technique. So now that's quite important, though. And I know you're going to be repeating yourself a bit, but the importance of a prop, and props are just taken as the big stupid guy that sits in front that just holds up the scrum, but it's not like that at all. Can you just go through a little bit about the importance of actually coaching the prop and getting him to understand that he's doing the right thing, as not to injure himself or anybody behind him in the scrum?
Look, a prop is only as strong as as good as the guys behind him. Firstly, well, first things first, you need to be fit. You need to have core muscle, okay? So I think one of our major issues, especially on tight head, is the fact that the guy's core is horrendous. They don't have any core strength. Because we sit on the couch the whole day and freaking play Xbox and all kinds of crap. So in our days, we used to climb trees and, you know, we were pretty much active. So one of our major concerns on prop is the fact that the guy's core muscles are way below par. Playing tight head, you need to scrum up, you need to scrum down. So going up, you need your back muscles. Going down, keeping the loose head down, you need your core muscles. Now you have core muscle. Now you've worked on your core muscle, and your feet are way behind you. So what they're saying is your feet must chase you. So your back going down on your hamstring must always be in a 90-degree shape where your push is. And then when you get momentum, we've got lazy feet. So what I mean by that is, and you'll see 90% of the scrums that goes down, even on Super Rugby level, is where the guy hits the scrum and his feet stays behind. Now his core is not activated. So now he becomes top heavy on his shoulders. Now he's lying down, his feet are way behind, and that's what causes the scrum to fall. So if you're tucking your feet and you get it under your body and you're in a good shape with small strides scrumming, 90% of that will be resolved. Now the fact of the matter is not a lot of guys know that, because if you look at the circle of life for a prop, he used to be somewhere down the line. He used to be a center, and then he became fat. He became a flanker, and then he became fatter. He became a hooker. And then somewhere bread and potatoes set in, and then he had to choose between loose head and tight head. Now the fact of the matter is, nobody has shown this little lad how to come through the system regarding technique, from hooker to loose head, and from hooker to tight head, or from flank to hooker. And I mean, we can see 90% of the hookers used to be a flanker, and then it becomes a prop. So we need to really emphasize, and that's where Matt Proudfoot is brilliant, and I think that's why he's one of the best scrum coaches in the world, is his attention to detail. Now everybody can scrum, but can everybody scrum right? And I think that's a major issue, is that the guys that's coaches scrums used to be a center or a flanker. You know, there's a saying, you know, playing prop is a dark world, you know, and it is, because they asked me years ago, and I think Kees Muse is one of the most difficult guys to play against. I mean, he is an absolute freak of nature. He's strong, he's explosive, and he's short, so it makes life hell for a tight end. But the fact of the matter is, they asked me years ago, who taught you to play tight head? And I said, well, all the loose heads I played against. But the fact of the matter is, we need to cover our bases and our basics. Otherwise we're gonna be in trouble. And that's why I thought to, you know, get the kids already at high school level. You know, even if I never coach him again and he goes to a different team or a different union, at least we know that the basics for that kid is right, and he can make a difference. But the fact of the matter is, you can't. It's difficult to teach it if you haven't played there. It's impossible.
I'm actually trying to look for his name. It's Dean Bleeler. He played for SWD, and he was one of our Coca-Cola heroes of the day at Craven Week in St. Stithians. Victor Matfield chose him, and we were talking to Victor Matfield, and we said to him, but you know, he's explosive, he's quick around the field. Maybe he should, and he's from our perspective as an outsider, maybe he's a bit too small to play prop. And Victor turned around to us and said, well, actually, he weighs over 100 kilos. He's not a big fat guy. He's a muscular, strong, fit, healthy guy. He says that's the modern day prop. So don't look at these other guys. Look at this guy. This guy's a guy to watch out for.
Yeah, Yeah. Look, times have changed. You know, the game is getting quicker and faster. So the days of a fatty is long gone. You have to be mobile. You have to be explosive. But fact of the matter is, first things first. You need to scrum, and you need to get your right shoulder. And it's fine to have all that tricks of the trade, and all the talent to have it. But somebody needs to coach you. You know, Marius Hutter is down at Marty's. He's doing a great job. I'm here at Tuks. So we're trying, but we're getting the post-matric. So for 4 months, we struggle to coach a bad habit out of him. Because nobody has taught him how from standard 8 or whatever how to play prop. So now it comes, and so if you're in a big strong pack, you don't need technique because you've got raw power. But now you're on the same level as other guys, and so now you need really to work at your technique, where the guys are giving you a go, where you do the shift on the scrum and they attack your loose head, and how do you survive that? And when is the tight head scrumming against the hooker or with the hooker? And when is he hitting the gap? When is he hitting man on? So it's all those things that's not written down in the rugby manual. You know, the basics is there. Keep your back straight and so on and so forth. But guys, that's just a third of playing prop. That's the basics. So I used to do a lot of video work with the lads, you know, watching the games, and so it's all about attention to detail. And now there's a handful of guys that really knows what the definition of attention to detail is. And like I said, you know, we're getting the guys through the system, and it takes about 3 or 4 months. So, and as soon as he gets tired, he gets into his old bad habits. So you need to teach him, and you really need to have a tough sessions with them, so that they can stay in shape and they can stay strong even though they're tired. And when that can happen, you know, you've made a good prop.
With so the solution, from what I understand, is that we need to have more like seminars, coaching sessions where ex-props or coaches can go through and coach the coaches and actually assist coaches around the country continuously on how to improve their skills.
Yeah, look, if you look at New Zealand, Mike Cron is there, and I think his son has taken over now as well. You know, and that's IP that sits with the guys. It's not, and that's IP that you can't pen it down on a piece of paper, because there's different scenarios to every scrum, and it will be impossible to pin it down on a piece of paper. So the fact of, to answer your question, yes, I think there's a hell of a need for guys, and I think that's what I'm trying to do with Donnie and Rudolph at DigiTV, getting to the schools, getting my input. Firstly, to coach the coach if there's a need. And I mean, it's not freaking costing them a cent. But the fact of the matter is, we've got an issue in our country regarding egos. Guys, I don't want your job. You're brilliant coaching the guys. I want to ensure that that kid becomes a good prop. And that's the short and the long of this whole story. I want to take him. I want to show you. And that, I think that's the difference between South Africa and New Zealand. When New Zealand coaches, they put their IP together, get a good solution, and then execute it. Where here in South Africa, all the coaches think they know the best, and this is our IP. They don't share it, and even if me as an ex-Bulls player or Springbok gets to the school, they see you as a threat. And I think my message today to all the guys is, guys, I don't want to coach. I don't want to coach school rugby. But I really want the guys to be safe, because it's player safety first. And giving that guy an opportunity, you know, the definition of a good coach, like Heineke said, is know your limits. And if you don't know it, get somebody in to help you and to assist you. And we need to put our egos aside to help the kids and the boys. And I think that's why New Zealand is a little bit way ahead of us, because they're coaching the All Black way, and we just stupid. If you look at all the old players out there trying to make a difference at school level, but they just keep you away, and they don't want your IP. And I mean, how stupid is that? It's ridiculous.
And just on that, just for the coaches that are listening, I mean, if you want to go and find out about the Crusaders way, it's a phone call that you make to the Crusaders. They take you for an entire tour around their setup there, including the educational side, the training side, the open. They're willing to talk about absolutely everything. And they're the best club in the world. I mean, there's nobody better than the Crusaders.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, and they're sharing their knowledge. And I mean, the more you share, the more you will get, because you exchange ideas. And nobody knows everything. I mean, when I used to play rugby, I always used to do clinics, because I simulate what the other prop is doing to me. So I simulated in a session, and usually I used to go and help Boys High in Pretoria. So then I said, and I know what happened the previous Saturday with me. So I simulated in a live scrum with 2 packs at Boys High, and I asked this Lucette to do this, and then I see, standing outside, what the tight end must do. And that's how I improved myself, knowing what to do the next time when a Lucette is doing that.
Yeah, I spoke to the guys from Rhino Technologies, and they were saying how the best thing they ever did for rugby is get involved in American football, because every one of those universities or professional teams in the NFL, they are completely open to sharing knowledge and details. And their idea is that if they keep something to themselves, the other coaches from the other teams aren't going to communicate with them, and they're going to fall behind everybody else. So they might have the edge today, but tomorrow they're going to be far behind everyone. They can't afford it. So they'd rather share the knowledge and let the players' natural abilities and tactics come to the forefront, not and open everything else out, which I think we need to do here quite a bit.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, when I was down at Boys High, Paddle Boys High, I mean, I think it was the same day that they had trials as well. And me and myself and Richard Fisaki, the scrum guru of the Western Cape, we sat there and we just spoke for hours, and I showed him clips and videos what I'm doing with elastic bands in the gym and on the field, manipulating body shape and how certain things work. And I mean, he's a legend himself. And he asked me to forward him the clips because he wants to. And I mean, that's a guy with 30, 40 years scrumming experience. There's nothing I can teach him, but his openness to learn, that's what makes him a different coach. And I think if we can get that right in South Africa, the willingness to learn from each other, I think that will make huge strides for our boys, and paving really a good career for them as well. When they get to Tuks or wherever, we can't go back to standard 8 basics and teach them how to scrum. At that level, they should know how to scrum. So now we go back and we do drills and stuff that they actually had to do in standard 8 or grade 10 already. And like I said, then for 3 or 4 months, we need to catch that up, and then the season starts. So we're not doing it right in the sense that we develop the players in the right way, technique-wise. And so, like I said, everybody can scrum, but the attention to detail is lacking, and we need to fix that.
Now, going into school, like the structure, because you've spoken quite a bit about the egos and stuff in school rugby, but there's a big aim at just winning at all costs and not actually developing the players the best you can. And I know there's some phenomenal coaches out there that work exceptionally hard at helping these kids out, but the coaches get an ultimatum from their schools that you win X amount of games, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the impact of that on rugby in South Africa?
Look, it comes to my definition of coaching again. And I've said it years ago. So a good coach would make an average player a star. A bad coach will make a star player play average. So what I'm trying to say is we've got a vast amount of talent in this country where New Zealand don't have it. So they invest IP in an average player to make him a brilliant player. Where here by us, we don't have the time to invest into a player. So if you don't make the cut, we bring in the next boy so that he plays. So I don't think we spend enough time with the guys, and the coaches don't have time. And I think that's where outsourcing becomes really a good idea at school level. If you want to go professional, if you look at the setup at Grey College, there's a few old players there, but on a consultation basis, and it comes back to attention to detail, because that's what rugby is all about, is attention to detail. So if get a guy in that's doing the coach, that's doing the kicking, do a guy that's doing the tackle technique, get a guy that do the scrums once a week or whatever the case might be, and give them the drills that they can do in their off time. So the fact of the matter is, to answer your question, if you look at the clubs in the northern hemisphere, they really invest time and effort into a player because they want to develop him, because it's an investment. So they really want to they spend time, effort with him to make him a better player. I always ask the question, so average guy leaves South Africa and he goes overseas and he plays brilliant rugby there, and he becomes a Springbok out of that setup. Why is that? And I mean, there's many ways to answer. But I think the fact of the matter is we're spoiled with a hell of a lot of talent in the school system. You don't make it, I'll move you to one side, and the next guy moves in. And you can see that on the way that they rehabilitating the guys as well that have injuries. If you look at how we nurse our players here and how they do it overseas, I think it's something we can go and look how to do overseas. So I think we're spoiled with talent. So if you don't make the cut, we move in the next guy, and that's it. And overseas in New Zealand, they've got a handful of players, so they really invest time and effort into them.
I mean, with your DigiTV, I mean, you guys are looking at the whole holistic part of, you've got the educational side, you've got the cultural side, you've got the sporting side of it. So, I mean, it must be quite pretty fantastic to be involved in something like that, where you can actually cover all avenues of a person's development and enable other coaches out there to tap into the same thing that you're using.
Yeah, look, I had a meeting with Stefan ter Blanche, when was it, Monday? And it's about how do we spread the news regarding good quality. I won't say, look, guys, there's brilliant coaches out there. Please please don't think I am saying that there's no good coaches. There's a hell of a lot of good coaches, school coaches, university coaches, and so on and so forth, and even the guys at primary school. But the fact of the matter is, we only get to a handful of guys, and we need to do more. So the fact of the matter is, we need to get something on a system. So even if I do a few scrum videos or whatever the case might be, to get the basics right, and to get it to a school where there's a guy playing in the F team or whatever the case might be, so that they have access to what I think is the right technique. So if I speak, but I've spoken to Mike Ron before, and I think we're pretty much on the same page, and Matt Proudfoot as well, and Marius Herter. So I think we're pretty much on the same page regarding attention to detail. I think that the fact of the matter is we need to get it out there, and I think DG is maybe a good basis to, to get it out. But I mean, time will tell. Like I said, I just started with all my call it site visits by the schools. So and then Corona struck. So I think from now on, I'll really get involved with the schools and get to them and not insisting, but asking if there's a need for me to assist. So it's for them to say yes or no.
Now, this playing of multiple sports to try and benefit the game, because we get phone calls at the end of January from the schools saying that their rugby teams are insisting that their players, that cricketers don't stop the season, and that's already at the end of January. And I mean, last week we had Zanella Mdodana talking, and she's, I don't know if you know her from netball, she's an ex-captain of the Proteas women's netball side. She used to assist in at the Kings in assisting the guys with their ball handling, because I mean the ball handling you get in netball is second to none. And the reason why the Kings did is that New Zealand does that. The Black Ferns go through and they help train the New Zealand rugby team at their ball skills. So how important is it to actually playing multiple sports and not just focusing on one sport?
Well, believe it or not, I used to be a tennis player, and I've played some good squash as well. So, look, either you have ball sense or you don't. I mean, it's as easy as that. But the problem is the seasons are so long, and if I understand your question right, Sean, it's there's good cricketers out there that plays rugby, and there's good rugby players that wants to play cricket. Whether there's time for it, I think that's a debatable. If I've in some of the schools in Pretoria, the guys start training 5 o'clock in the morning before school, and then after that they shower, and then they go to school, and after that they've got a session, and after that they've got a session, and then they've got an extra class maths, and then they've got a scrumming session or a rugby session. So the guys, I think we're pushing the boys too hard, but we also understand that sport is selling a school, and it is what it is. So I think the boys are being pushed to the limits, and I think sometimes even when the season starts, the guys are out on the feet already and tired, because I think the most important thing is how to manage a player, not just to burn him out. So, but they don't have a luxury. If you look at all the games that's being played, where there's opportunity for another sport code, I don't know, but I think in our days, we had our athletics, and when that's finished, we've got our rugby, and even in our days, that's pretty much the two things that you can do. So yeah, no, playing sport codes is important, but yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know how positive it is to have such a huge focus on just one sport. I can understand having a primary sport and then taking up a second sport to take up the rest of the year and keep yourself fit, and also for the enjoyment side, because if you're playing rugby, no matter how much you love it, if you're playing it at a high level 12 months of the year, it's got to be exhausting on you physically and mentally. I mean, even the Springboks have, I think it's 20, or it's 1 full month where they're not allowed to be touched by anybody, so they can actually rest themselves.
Yes. Yeah, look, fatigue. Look, if you sit with that mental fatigue, you're not sharp, and that comes back to attention to detail. So you need to be focused and you need to be sharp in order to execute things. If you're fresh, you can execute it. If you're dead, and your soul is dead for rugby, you're going to miss that. So it affects your sharpness as well, and your attention to detail. But yeah, if the rugby is too much, I think so. And I think they push the boys too hard, and I think just to have a good, decent 10 days off or whatever the case might be. It's about managing the players as well. A lot of kids sits with bursaries, so they want, every cent worth of the money that they've invested into the kid. So I think always there's a golden thread or a golden line that needs to be there, that you can't cross.
So here's a question also: how will you advise young players who want to make a career out of rugby? Is it still possible, especially due to this year? And should one have a backup plan or education for later in life?
Yeah, look, guys, I think that's an interesting question. Look, I think the club structures is a bit in shambles at this stage. There's no money. The unions don't have money, and the clubs get money from the unions. Industries are struggling. The open clubs used to get sponsors. So I think the times are tough. Now, with the unions only allowed to sign a certain amount of junior players and senior players, I think there's a hell of a lot of players that's falling through the system. So how and where do we catch those boys I think I heard the other day, Willem Strauss said that 70% of first team players stop playing rugby after school. So that's horrendous. So where do the guys go is a difficult question. So like I said, open clubs are in trouble, sponsors, but they survive. And that's purely out of passion for the game that they make it work, but it is tough. Then you go to, which is really a stepping stone, and that's the universities. I'm talking about exposure-wise. So the only place to go now is to a Tuks or a Marties or a Kofsies or wherever the case might be. So now academics start playing a factor, because if you don't have 60 credits or merits, you're not allowed to play varsity cup. That's the rules. So now it becomes a more balanced player. And I said to the guys a while back, we need to create balanced players or balanced human beings where he plays rugby, but he understands the way of life of studying and having a job as well. And I was speaking under corrections, but and maybe you can assist me, Sean. In New Zealand, if you sign a contract with whoever, you need to enroll into a university, and you need to be involved with a primary school, and you need to be involved with high school. So you need to study a degree, and one day out of the week you have the primary school to teach the guys at grassroots level the All Black way, and you're involved with the high school and also teaching them the All Black way. So that's pretty much a balanced player, because you've got an education, A. B, you're not lazy, lying on the couch the whole day. B, you're getting involved with kids and being a mentor for them, and that keeps your feet on the ground as well. So I think from being a balanced human being, I think the New Zealanders are way ahead of us. What has happened now is a lot of guys that used to play SA under 20, or SA school or whatever the case might be, didn't focus a lot on his education, but just on his sport and just floating through. Now comes it where he didn't make the cut at any union. So where's the next step now? University. Sorry, you can't go to university. So what's going to happen now? So I'm all for it, that the guys need to study, get a degree, or getting some sort of something behind a certificate or whatever the case might be, and still play rugby. The fact of the matter is, there's youngsters that's 21, 22 years old with a matric that earns a hell of a lot of money. He buys a house of 4 or 5 million rand. Reality is, if he gets injured, where is he going to get the same salary with his matric to pay his overheads? You know, pay a house, pay a car. You know, a guy of 22 or 23 years old earning 1.5 or 2 million rand. I mean, he's living according to standards. So the guys must be clever with their wealth and their money and spend it wisely, because your career can stop abruptly and you cannot make it. And you sit with the installment on your house of a 50,000 and a 20,000 on your car. So where are you going to go in the private sector and earn a salary of 70,000 net just to cover your overheads? I mean, the guys must be shocked. So coming back, question, long story short, guys, study, be a balanced player, do your hard craft with your academics, and put your hard yards in on the field as well.
I agree with that. We try and push that quite a bit in our narrative too, saying that even if it's not a proper university degree, if it's a diploma, they're all fine. It's all, as long as you've got something to fall back on. But also on the rugby side specifically, I often advise guys when they say, you know, they don't know what they're going to do once they matriculate. And this is the guys at Craven Week, like some of the captains or some of the SS Schools players. And for me, you've got to get yourself into a team that plays varsity cup rugby, because you might make the under-19 setup at your province, and then you get an injury, and there's another 6 guys that are coming up from the next year's Craven Week, and you very quickly get forgotten. So you've got to have something where you can show yourselves all the time, and that's where Varsity Cup comes in as a phenomenal. The varsity setup is phenomenal for keeping guys in the system, that they don't fall out.
Yeah. Look, I think what the sad thing is, look, not all of us are very clever boys, you know. So, and some are very clever. They're just flipping lazy. So we need to get the open clubs structures. We need to get that right as well. And there must be a way that I don't know how, and I'll still think about it. And I think I've found a little bit of a solution to enable club rugby to uplift again because I mean there's only so many guys that can be contracted with a university, you know, playing varsity cup or exposures. So that's the high road for me. All right, but we need to cater for a Richard Bands on a low road, you know, that didn't have that should have stayed on the farm, but we need to create for him a stepping stone as well. And the only stepping stone there is club rugby. So I really think we need to, and like I said, I'm speaking to a few guys, and I think I've got it almost figured out how we can make hell of a difference with the clubs, open clubs, because you know 90% of the rugby players are going to fall through the system at Union. The rest is going to fall through the system at Varsity Cup, at the universities, and then the biggest net that we need to catch is at club rugby. Now we all know if club rugby is strong, and you remember the years ago with the Toyota club champs down in Durban. I mean, the quality of rugby was just crazy. So we need to get that, and if we have those structures in place there, then I think rugby will be at a good place.
Now, out of all the weeks that we've lost out on this year, for me personally, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's called the Kawa Week, is most probably the one where the players have lost out the most, because generally speaking, your Craven Week guys have been watched for the last 3 or 4 years. But this is one where you can't be from one of the big schools to play in this. And it's a big development one and big opportunity for guys to get spotted and put into various rugby structures. I mean, how much do you think we're going to lose, especially at transforming the game without having a week like that?
Look, it's crazy. It's, you know, my heart's bleeding for the guys that's grade 12 this year, you know, where they, you know, this was really the year to make a mark, and you know they want to leave high school with a high school jersey and you know, and all the memories and so on and so forth. So it's been a freaking terrible year, just frustrating not to play rugby, but also your last year of rugby being a mess like this. So you know, it's difficult. I asked the guys, all the guys asked me, Coach, what must we do, or whatever the case. I said, well, you know, make videos, clips, highlights, and send it through and see where can we help with what. And so it's just a freaking, like I said, a nightmare, and my heart is really going out to the players. But I mean, guys, the fact of the matter is, the criteria of a good rugby player is how do you bounce back from being dropped. So now you've been dropped, so now you're on the low road. So how hard are you prepared to work in order to get it? Because you will get it if you're hungry enough. So it's fine to use COVID as an excuse. And when January comes, it looked like you had a lockdown in your mom's kitchen, and swallowed everything that there is, and being fat and unfit. So so there's always an excuse for not being in shape. Okay, so come January, be in shape, but get involved at least somewhere, and play your way open. It's like I said in the beginning of our interview, guys. I didn't have the easier road of them all, but I was fortunate to play a hell of a lot of games for the Bulls and Boxing and the British Barbarians. And if I can make it with 4 years not playing rugby because of drought, surely you guys can make it with 6 months of COVID. I mean, it's if you use an excuse, you're a coward. Just buck down and work hard and play, and you need to play twice as hard in order to play your way open. It's easy to sit and say COVID has been bad to me, and it's, guys, it's easy to look for excuses. I mean, every coward can do that, but the real rugby player will put up his hand and say, you know what, the COVID is not going to put me down. I'm going to freaking work hard. And if you work hard and you get that one bite at the cherry, you'll grab it with both your hands, and you'll have a brilliant career, playing hundreds and hundreds of games, because you know the hard work and the effort that you had to put in. Like I said, for 4 years I couldn't play rugby because of drought. Don't use Corona for not playing 6 months rugby as an excuse for talent. Then you're a coward. Work hard.
Yeah, so at Craven Week, one of the things we did, and this is the Craven Week that Hundred Pollard was actually meant to be captain Western Province, but he got injured and he missed out. So it was the one in Port Elizabeth. We have what they call a locker room function, where we had 3 Springbok players that day that sat in the locker room, and you could ask them questions and things. Now, I won't talk about the other 2 players, but we had Bandisa Mako that was there. And one of the players actually asked, how do you balance your academics with your rugby, with your social life, with everything? And the other 2 players turned around and said, no, we dumb rugby players, we don't study. And Bandisa sat there and said, no, what you got to do is you've got to decide what's important for you, and focus on that. Find out what your focus actually is. And if your focus is rugby, if you really want to be a rugby player, then you make sure that you are at practice in the morning and you focus on your rugby and your academics. He says, your friends, those friends at varsity often come and go. And he says, you might lose out on them, you won't see them next week, but it's not a problem. It's not a big issue. It's more the focusing. If you want to be a rugby player, to be the rugby player. And if you've got an exam, coordinated around that. So pretty much exactly what you said.
Yeah, look, and that's why I said, you know, in New Zealand, they've got more balanced human beings or people than us, because they're disciplined. They know they've got an exam tomorrow morning, so they can't have a party tonight with the lads in the hostel or whatever. And that's what we need to have is a balanced rugby player that knows, you know, when to go and have a beer with the boys, but also to say, no, boys, I've got an exam. So and we all need discipline in our life, and it's just about discipline and organizing your own time and organizing your own career. And your life.
Just one last thing, going back to what you discussed earlier on about this, maybe the Springboks, and it's the same in cricket with the Pro Teams getting more involved and having to coach primary school teams or high school teams. Now, I did these kind of things for Cricket South Africa. We had a private group for Cricket South Africa. And one of the coaches there said that he was on one for Cricket Australia with Justin Langer. And Langer actually spoke about the fact that all the players, Steve Smith has got to go back to his club and coach at his club. They don't want to tire him out, so he won't play necessarily for his club, but he has to coach there and develop, and he's got to coach junior cricket there. And then he's got to still play for his provincial side, plus he's got to play for the national team. And I mean, some of our guys do that, but it's not, it's forced. They have to, they've got no choice. And Richard here is going to talk next, Richard Bennett. He can talk about the involvement that he's getting from the English Rugby Union and Scotland compared to what he's not getting from South Africa. So it's more yet again another comment on I just said the importance of actually giving back, but also creates a more balanced individual player at the end of the day if he is able to give back. I mean, Siya Kolisi is giving back a hell of a lot at the moment, but there are other players that could be doing it too.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's our job to give back, but it's also the community's job to accept our handout and embrace it and not see it as a threat, you know. I mean, Victor Matfield, one of the best line-out jumpers in the world. You know, why can't we get him involved with the school? Myself on the scrumming, or whoever the case might be. But guys, don't you know? It's like you had your career and you're trying to give back, and like I said, the coaches, you know, okay, that's how Richard doing it. I'm doing it different. You know, so guys, my plea to the coaches is we're not a threat. We try to assist, and we're not always right, but we're 90% of the time right. You know, and we can. There's always for us to evolve as coaches as well, and to understand what we can do better in order to help you to be better. You know, so it's a hand-in-hand story.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for today. It's been absolutely fascinating chatting to you. And I think we got a bit distracted with getting into props and scrum work and stuff, but I think it was extremely important, you know, educating guys and teaching people that there is the holistic approach. There's a lot more to coaching than just getting the biggest guy out there and, you know. But thank you so much. It's been fascinating. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a million. Thanks for your time, and good luck to all the guys out there, and maybe we have a good rest of the year.